If you've ever browsed the True Godverse wiki, you'll most likely recognize this character, God404. God404 was created in the Undertale fandom wiki and during the character deletion effort, was moved to the Godverse wiki, where it was later deleted for quality reasons. So let's see why this character is so terrible, starting with his backstory, which I've summarized. God404 is a future version of Era404, born in a near-death state, due to a fight with Viru404, who outmatched him thanks to the presence of his allies. Once transformed, God404 destroyed Virus404 and his henchmen, then went to the realm of Infinity Code and eliminated him as well. Having finished off his enemies, God404 recreated his home, Alpha Tail. He later recreated himself, bringing back the multiverse, and created an AU called Inferno Tail, where he granted great powers to Sans and Papyrus, but in exchange, they would consume their good side. Sans failed the experiment and unleashed Inferno Tail, while Papyrus tried to stop him. God404 later recreated Alpha Tail. I was pretty sure he'd done it before, but it doesn't matter, he'd probably forgotten. Appearance-wise, however, God404 is the same as Era404, except grey, and that's it. Before commenting on the story, let's continue by reading some of the character's abilities as listed on the wiki. All-powerful nature. God404 can manipulate the concept of totality and is capable of manipulating the entirety of anything. He can manipulate the totality, which is forever the largest thing conceptualized and imagined by any mind. It absolutely encompasses anything and everything. Even though God404 can transcend everything and has power over everything too, they are not the origin of it all. As Toby Fox is the origin, the God, and the creator, he and the first beings he created are the only ones that defeat God404 because they have an ability called True Omnipotence. It also gives him an extremely powerful force that allows him to control and manipulation of the Omnisphere, which contains an absolutely infinity or unlimited number of other universes, multiverse, and omniverses. Note in abilities area it should say Mega Omnipotence also for information on the two. Fandom Plague. God404 likes to deceive creators into believing there are characters stronger than him. In actuality, God404 cannot be defeated nor killed as he is all-powerful. He thinks it's funny how pitiful some creators are to make a fan version just to show how strong theirs is, even if they try to redefine the phrase all-powerful. Although he thinks it's funny, his creator definitely doesn't anger face. Manipulation of the outerversal void highest reality. This ability allows him to manipulate, shape, manage, warp, edit, destroy, and control absolutely any form and any kind of void, completely ignoring any restrictions. It also allows him to manipulate and control everything in his reality and all realities, even non-reality or omniversal reality, common sense, nonsense, logic, non-logic, space, non-space time, probability, non-probability, create things, erase things, and so on. These abilities are awful, to say the least. Their sole purpose is to make God404 seem more op than any other character. Initially, this might make you think God404 is a bad character, but the author left a note at the bottom. This character is satire on how people in the wiki want their character to be stronger than everyone else and as such redefine the word omnipotent. These are the first words of the author's note. What's immediately clear is that the entire page is a satire on how the Undertale fandom wrote, and for the most part still writes, op-ed characters. This would then explain the poor quality of the design and backstory. At least it seems so. The note continues. For the record, omnipotence means being able to do literally anything, such as the concept of God in many religions. So that part of the character is satirical. On the other hand, I wanted to create a godlike character in the fan-made Undertale multiverse in a different way. I wanted to create a god who was an actual character, one who has an internal struggle. Similar to how Shadical 15 made Era404, I wanted a broken and depressed god to show that even with everything, some can't fix what was broken from their past. God404 is therefore not a satirical character, not even in his abilities, and now I'll explain why. The author's note suggests that he despises the concept of omnipotence used in the stories. This is understandable. The Undertale fandom has long had the bad habit of spamming the word omnipotent on almost every OP character, not all of them, obviously. This habit has diminished over time thanks, in my opinion, to the influence of the true God verse, which, thanks to an internal hierarchy within the verse, disallowed the use of abilities like omnipotence, which were unique to the absolute God, first Teachwa and then Quandam, and of STS, which based its identity in the early years on the concept of semi-omnipotence and how the idea of omnipotence could not be associated with a sans. Despite the disdain, however, the author is clearly still interested in making his character OP, and believes he is invincible. In his other related page, Devil Sans, whom we won't talk about much, is better written than God404 but isn't a good character, there is a direct statement from the author about his character's tier, high 1A high outerverse level. Obviously, neither God404 nor Devil Sans even come close to this level of strength, but this gives us an idea of what the author thinks. The author appears protective of God404's strength, warning others not to use his character if they nerf him. This makes the note appear more like an excuse for the character's poor quality than a true criticism of the problem with OP characters, and for this reason, from now on, we'll be referring to God404 as a real character, not a joke. The backstory is extremely low quality. It's short, poorly explained, banal, and lacking in depth. The plot begins with a fight we know nothing about, at a time we don't know. God404's transformation has no basis, it simply happens because the plot needs it. And after that, there's no real change in 404, despite what the author wants you to believe. God404 simply creates an ending, and that's it. There's no emotion, no insight, events flow one after another like a number line, and the backstory is meaningless, just like Omni 404. But what if we started from the premise that God404 is a satire? Could we write something well? It would certainly be difficult, starting from the foundations of Error 404 and Virus 404, but not impossible. There are indeed satirical characters, wholly or partially, who are well written. The example I want to bring to your attention today is Saitama. Saitama is a character created by One, and is the protagonist of the webcomic and manga One Punch Man. Saitama is a satirical character, whose main characteristic is that he is invincible, and the strongest in his universe, to a degree that is incomparable to any other character. In some ways, the premise is similar to God404, but the execution is completely different. Saitama doesn't have a particular backstory, just like our dear grey skeleton, but the story doesn't end there and evolves afterward. Saitama continually finds himself facing threats of all kinds, which are extremely dangerous for everyone except himself. Part of the plot is based on the fact that Saitama is surrounded by many secondary characters who treat him differently and have their own thoughts, goals, etc. Saitama is therefore the linchpin of the narrative, as a slew of plot-critical events unfold around him without his consent. The peculiarity, however, is that Saitama doesn't act immediately to eliminate the threat, because in many cases he himself hasn't realized it, while everyone is trying to solve it. The gag therefore works not only despite Saitama's absurd strength, but because of it. Throughout all this, the protagonist remains human, with all his flaws. He's funny because his exaggerated powers contrast with his humanity. God404 can't have any of this, because the underlying idea is simply to be OP. There's no idea of a gag, he's just a poorly written character who almost tries to excuse this with a non-existent satire. And what if we considered the serious part? Here too, Saitama outclasses God404 in every way. The character's lack of seriousness highlights the moments when he's serious and stops joking, which is also accompanied by an art style that changes at the right moments. In fact, in the fight against Garou, at the end of the Monster Association story arc, Saitama is forced to realize his lost genos. In a single moment, we understand how much he truly cares for the cyborg. The atmosphere changes, and the hero launches himself against the serious Garou, intent on defeating him. The fact that Saitama is a satirical character most of the time only serves to highlight the contrast between his funny side and his serious side, making him much more interesting. This is also a single example. There are many other nuances that could be analyzed, but they're not necessary. God404 wants to be taken seriously. He doesn't even create the possibility of a contrast between his satirical side and his more mature side, which, even when analyzed on its own, is terrible, to say the least, and this makes him a flat character to say the least. Furthermore, God404's relationship with the cast of Inferno Tale isn't explored at all, it's merely mentioned in the hope that it might add complexity to the character, which fails miserably. Two characters who simply know each other, who are told to interact without any real showing, doesn't enhance the writing. Character rating: 1/10. Terrible backstory, terrible design, atrocious skills, no depth, no creativity, and more. Same rating as Omni404 because, although the page is written slightly better, it loses quality due to the indirect dishonesty of the page, which tries to make itself look better than other characters like Omni404, who at least don't hide behind fake satire. That said, I wish everyone a good day.